Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to my thoughts and analysis video on the Final Fantasy VII Remake gameplay trailer from the PlayStation Experience 2015. Now, it's only been about, 5-6 months since we saw the trailer for Final Fantasy VII Remake, and to be honest, I didn't expect to be doing this video so shortly. I didn't expect to get one of these before the end of the year. But before I give you my thoughts and analysis, which I've been getting asked a lot about since this aired during my live stream earlier, what do you say we just watch the Final Fantasy VII Remake gameplay trailer? What do you say we do that first? Apologies for my camera location. You'll understand why that's there as you watch the trailer. It's part of the gameplay UI and whatnot.
I still don't see why we brought a Shinra soldier along. No way he'd throw all that away for us. What's his name, anyway?
Cloud Strife. And he says it's former soldier. Look, heavy security like this, you want a professional.
We're paying you more than a few gil. You best be worth it.
Look, I don't care about your politics.
Doing this for the planet, same as us.
Not interested.
When? Get back here! Okay, Riku. Let's move.
And there you go, the Final Fantasy VII Remake gameplay trailer. Now, I already know that those of you who for some reason haven't seen it yet are wondering to yourself, oh my god, why did they go with that combat system? So I'm going to share some analysis, my thoughts on it. We'll do that right at the end, my thoughts on the action-based combat versus the turn-based combat. But real quick, I got a few comments about the trailer itself. So first of all, English voice acting already. Wow, I didn't expect to get a trailer with English voice acting and gameplay before the end of 2015 when this was just revealed at E3. They said they didn't really make a whole lot of headway on it before E3 and that they just kind of, showed us what they had. But I'm impressed that they've got this out at this point. Granted, when it seems like you've kind of already nailed down what the combat's going to be like and what the changes are going to be based on Final Fantasy VII's universe, it probably speeds things up a little bit. So I'm sure that the rate of development for Final Fantasy 15 has probably improved the rate of development here when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Remake. So first of all, let me just comment on the character models that we see right here. Barrett. Okay, so Barrett's going to be the first one. I didn't realize Wesley Snipes was available for motion capture, because honestly he is a more jacked Wesley Snipes. Like I can't, the glasses, I think Blade immediately. That being said, I think it's a pretty good representation of Barrett. I mean, you gotta remember, we're coming from Final Fantasy VII where they had horse hooves for hands most of the time, so I'm actually pretty happy with their interpretation of him here. I don't understand the sunglasses, but I can work around it. He just looks more badass, in my opinion, when it comes to those. So, good job on that. His gun is also better, because the thing is, a lot of people are comparing it to Advent Children, and his gun was huge on him in Advent Children. His gun could also transform into a hand at that point, so much different. Let's show the proportions of his gun. You can see that in this part right here. There you go. So proportions on his gun are pretty good. It makes sense with the rest of the size of his arm that it's not like just massive, massive gun that he has. Now, Cloud's arms, on the other hand, I don't know why. I'm just locked onto their arms. Cloud's arms are way too friggin' skinny. Like, I've seen this commented a few times. I'm trying to find a good one of it. Here we go. That was a good one right there. Look at how skinny his arms are. Like, I get it. Cloud's not a buff guy, but that is scary how friggin' skinny his arms are. I would like to see his arms made a little bit bigger, a little bit more muscular. Not Barrett size, just not that right there. Like, that's just scary. Like, somebody get this man a sandwich or something, please. That being said, now let's talk about the things that people care more about, and that's the actual gameplay aspect. So this thing right here, you can't help but think Final Fantasy 15 when it comes to that, right? Like, the way that he's, like, moving in and moving aside. But from what I understand, this isn't actually on Luminous Engine. I don't remember what interview said that. I just had other people telling me. It's not Luminous, so they didn't just take what they did in 15 on the same engine and put it over. But the gameplay elements are, without a doubt, very, very similar. And then of just whenever he's going through like a narrow area like this, close to a wall, or when he ducks under the thing a little bit later, I can't help but think Final Fantasy 15, even down to the font of the damage numbers when he's in this fight, excuse me, at this point over here, like even just the font of the damage numbers right there, can't help but think that that's Final Fantasy 15 as well. That being said, looking at the actual UI for the combat, I don't immediately think 15. Granted, I haven't seen the completed Final Fantasy 15 user interface. You know, when we played episode Deuce K, there were things like magic and the actual summoning systems that were missing. So, attack, magic, summon items. Good. Cool. It reminds me of Kingdom Hearts more than it does Final Fantasy 15. And it should make for a little bit more interesting of an active combat system. I understand that it's, you know, it's not using a system akin to Final Fantasy 15 where you have these 13 weapons and it's automatic that, you know, it'll adjust, you have this weapon for aerial attacks and whatnot. So it makes sense that it doesn't function exactly like Final Fantasy 15, even if it screams inspiration right when watching the trailer. What's interesting to me is the fact that there's actually defend as an option. I figured with an active combat system that they wouldn't put defend on the user interface and that it would be its own button. Granted, this is all early. It could all change. You know, another thing you can see here is that Barrett is actually being controlled, so it looks like swapping party members is actually a thing. It may be that their individual combat aspects are simple enough that they were able to make a full experience for all the different party members, which is good. Because that when they removed that from Versus 13, now 15, I was really upset that they removed the ability to change party members. So I hope that that is something that does not get removed from Final Fantasy VII Remake. Also, the idea of summoning in this game, like Knights of the Round. You're all thinking it, I'm thinking it. Like in Final Fantasy 14, it looks phenomenal, but we're all thinking it here. Like, let's just clear the air on that one. Still hope Defend gets its own button. I don't know how I feel about it being on the action bar over there on the left, but maybe it'll work out. Maybe I just need to know more about the way that the abilities interact and what other things are able to do in combat. Now, another thing you'll notice in the bottom right, and this is why I have my camera kind of just above that, you can see that you have their names, HP, MP, and a limit break value. So those systems seem to be all carrying over from the original Final Fantasy VII. But what's new is the little bar under their name. So what that looks like is like a mini limit break bar. That's what it looks like to me, at least. When you're landing constant hits, it fills quickly. And I'll show you what I mean. I have it muted right now. Watch it happen as Cloud lands multiple hits right here. See how the bar keeps going up and up? But it also depreciates very, very quickly when he stops landing hits. However, Barrett's bar about fills right here. When the bar fills all the way, it looks like it turns red. And then he performs a special attack. But these special attacks remind me of his limit break. So I'm beginning to wonder what the difference is between limit break and the special attack. Barrett also, you know, you can see this right here. Special attack right there. Another special attack from Cloud. So I'm curious what that ultimately ends up meaning, but it seems that it's just a bar that fills up as you attack, and then you perform a special attack when it fills, with the limit break bar doing something different. Maybe it's a group attack. I don't think so. I don't think it really makes sense for everyone to have a limit break bar in that case, unless it tries to encourage you to switch party members often to generate limit bar better for all of them. That could be an interesting way to look at it. But we really don't get to see a whole lot. We get to see the basics of the action combat system, the fact that it's not a turn-based combat system, and we get to see systems like Magic and Summon are currently being worked on for implementation. Things we don't see: materia implementation. We don't see if there's any sort of ability to scale the surrounding buildings, you know, like the way you can in 15, where it's very vertical, or if it pretty much is a battle that stays on ground level most of the time. And you have to wonder that because there are battles like Ultima Weapon on the airship or Emerald Weapon weapon underwater, and people immediately try to think, like, what's that going to look like here? And I wonder the same thing. What does an Emerald Weapon fight look like in these graphics? Is Emerald Weapon even going to be a boss in this? I can imagine a few ways for them to do that, but those are questions we have for later gameplay trailers and whatnot. So then the big question becomes, what do I think about the fact that they're going action instead of turn-based? Because I know everyone says Final Fantasy VII Remake, they just wanted updated graphics and they didn't want it to change the combat system. I'm honestly in a different boat. I feel like if I wanted to play turn-based Final Fantasy VII, I would go play the original. You know, and I want the original to constantly be one of those things you can look back at and be like, man, that's the original Final Fantasy VII. You know, without that, we don't have this remake and whatnot. And I feel like it adds value to that original launch. It's also going to be interesting seeing them continue to evolve the way that they want to approach highly graphical RPGs. Because very clearly, if something has very good graphics, they have no intention of going down the turn-based route. For things with cartoonier graphics or just lower graphics overall, like Bravely Default or World of Final Fantasy, they're willing to keep the turn-based combat system. But for something like this, I just remember when I watched Advent Children when I was younger, I looked at that and I go, man, imagine if Final Fantasy VII had this gameplay. And then Final Fantasy VII Remake gets launched, and I go, oh man, I wonder if it's going to have action-based combat. And it does, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of people that are just like, fuck this, it's not turn-based. When they said back in like June or July, they said, listen, it's not going to be the same combat system. We've known this for a pretty long time. So I'm happy. You know, I'm more excited for the 7 Remake now than I was before when I thought it was just going to be a graphical update. But honestly, Square Enix could have put Final Fantasy VII, they could have literally just had Cloud attacking a piece of dog shit for the entire game, and people would have bought it, let's be honest. So they decided to, instead of just carbon copy the system, for the turn-based system from 7, they wanted to create something new. And I can't fault them for that. I can't blame them for wanting to appeal more to a modern audience with this game, while still hitting the nostalgia strings of everybody that played Final Fantasy VII back when it came out in the day. If you want those nostalgia strings, you'll still have a game that you can go back to, that your nostalgia will always love. But if you're looking for something, the evolution of the RPG and the way that things are going to be going from now on, expect more things like Final Fantasy 15, like Final Fantasy 7 to be popping up in Square Enix's array of RPGs that they launch. To be honest, I'm happy, I'm excited, I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't think it'll come out till 2017, but hopefully we can get a release date for this sometime before the end of my life. After 15, which is getting its release date in March, that we're going to find out what the release date is in March, and Kingdom Hearts 3 that we still don't know shit about. I just want this to come out in my lifetime. That's all I'm asking. Tell me, guys, what do you think about the combat system in Final Fantasy VII Remake? Would you have preferred turn-based? Are you a fan of them evolving it into action-based? Let me know what you think about the similarities between Final Fantasy 15's font numbers, the way that he's crouching behind things, the general flow of the combat. Let me know what you think in the comment section of the video below. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share for more videos on my channel. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video, and until then, take care.